By the summer of 1940, the Battle of Britain had shifted gears. While the daylight dogfights over southern England captured the headlines, a new war was beginning to simmer in the darkness. This was the domain of the Nachtjagd, the night hunters. On August 1, 1940, the Night Fighter Command structure was officially expanded into XIJ, Fliegerkorps. Generalleutnant Kammhuber, recently promoted, was given overall responsibility. He received a Führer directive in August granting the highest priority for defense equipment, specifically radar, though aircraft and personnel priority remained lacking. The Nachtjagd was designed to be offensive as well as defensive. A new unit, NJG-2, was created specifically to fly the Ju-88C and Do-17 in long-range intruder roles. By the end of 1940, the Nachtjagd had grown to 6 Gruppen. Finding pilots for this unit was no easy task. Only those who showed a natural aptitude for night flying were transferred from the Zerstörer, destroyer, groups. Major Falk knew that finding enemy aircraft at night could be frustrating, especially over industrial areas where the RAF's targets were located. Haze from factory chimneys formed a near-impenetrable cloud layer, dissipating searchlight beams and reducing visibility. The noise of flak bursts and explosions only added to the chaos. At that time, Nachtjagd, illuminated night fighting, using searchlights, was the most effective method. Cooperation with flak batteries was generally good, though night fighters were advised to stay below 10,000 feet or risk being shot down by their own anti-aircraft guns. Some areas were entirely forbidden zones for fighters. However, there were few restrictions for the new I-Gruppe of NJG-2. In September 1940, they embarked on long-range intruder operations against RAF bomber airfields in England. Their mission: destroy bombers on the ground or shoot them down en route. Crews based at Gilsrijen in Holland would go on standby at 1,700 hours. If RAF aircraft were detected crossing the coast, the Feldwebel liaison officer would alert the Gruppen commander, who would order the aircraft to patrol British aerodromes. In actual combat, Ju-88 crews could close to within 50 yards, though fire was generally opened at 300 yards. They exploited a widely believed tactic. British ground defenses would not fire at 2 aircraft close together for fear of hitting the friendly machine. Blenheims and Hamptons were usually attacked from the rear, but a head-on pass often proved deadlier, aiming for the pilot or engines. One veteran noted, "The engines of the Blenheim were as vulnerable as expected. There was negligible risk in attacking Blenheims at night. But under no circumstances would we attack a Wellington from the rear because of its tail turret." A beam or quarter attack was always used. Among the early experts was Ludwig Becker of 2/NJG-1, who scored his first victory on October 16. Paul Gildner, a former ZG-1 pilot with 4-day victories, transferred and quickly realized the unique possibilities and difficulties of nocturnal sorties. The British bombers were slower than the Bf-110, but they were prone to overshooting if the fighter dove too fast, often resulting in the loss of the target entirely. The recommended method was to lower the flaps to match the bomber's speed immediately. The British bomber crews soon adopted the corkscrew maneuver, weaving wildly to throw off attackers. Luftwaffe intelligence advised a car and mouse pursuit. If a bomber started weaving, the fighter should reduce speed and fly straight ahead. Sooner or later, the target would appear in front of the fighter again. Success depended entirely on the pilot's skill. By late autumn, I/NJG-2 was perfecting this dangerous trade, albeit at a cost. On the night of November 23, Major Karl Heise, their Gruppen commander, went missing over the North Sea. To give an idea of the strain, the record of I/NJG-2 at Gilsrijen on December 1 is revealing. With 12 crews and 10 aircraft on strength, only 3 aircraft were fully serviceable. 1 was reserved for training, 1 was away for repairs, and no less than 5 were in the workshop. Of the crews, only 3 were immediately available for combat. The year 1941 brought new challenges. The RAF was raising the stakes. By March, the 4-engine Stirling and Halifax had arrived, carrying heavy bomb loads and featuring heavier armament, including mid-upper turrets. Kammhuber realized that seeking targets by searchlights or ground radar plots was not enough. He needed a more positive method. Thus, the Himmelbett, Heavenly Four-Poster Bed, system was born. The Himmelbett network consisted of boxes controlled by ground radar, incorporating fighters, flak, and searchlights to cover all bomber approach routes. To the British, this chain was known as the Kammhuber Line. It was the first attempt at an integrated night defense system. Technology was also evolving. In July 1941, Telefunken introduced the FUG 212 Lichtenstein radar, the first German airborne interception set to see widespread use. It had a range of 2.5 miles but required 3 cathode ray tubes. It was considered reliable, but crews were unhappy. The necessary external aerial array cut 26 miles per hour off the speed of the Bf-110. At low altitudes, ground returns would cloud the scope, making it incredibly difficult to maintain contact. Hostility towards the new device was widespread, until crews realized it allowed them to detect bombers independently of ground control. In October 1941, after a year of intruder attacks over Britain, I/NJG-2 received a surprising order: transfer to the Mediterranean. Hitler emphasized the propaganda value of bombers falling over the homeland, not distant airfields. The unit had already suffered over 100 casualties. However, they left with a roster of highly experienced pilots, including Oberfeldwebel Wilhelm Bayer with 14 claims, and Lieutenant Peter Laus with 11 kills. This quarter of top Experten, all holders of the Knight's Cross, would figure prominently in the night fighting history books. The Ju-88 crews arrived in Sicily to face similar RAF opposition. Without radar sets, they relied on radio and visual intelligence. In December 1941, they claimed their first kills in the theater: Beaufighters over Crete and Malta. On December 19, NJG-2 escorted Ju-88s attacking a convoy near Malta. They were intercepted by hurricanes. In the ensuing combat, the unit lost 3 aircraft in 1 week. One of the killed pilots was Pilot Officer Edward Pete Steele, an American volunteer defending Malta. He became the first American to die in the defense of the island. By the end of 1941, the Nachtjagd had destroyed 42 enemy aircraft, proving the concept of night defense. But the war was changing. The introduction of new British heavy bombers and the continuous development of radar meant the night hunters would have to evolve rapidly to keep the advantage in the darkness.